As the nation pauses to remember and honor its war dead on Memorial Day, the sole surviving Medal of Honor recipient from World War II, Woody Williams, remembers two comrades who made that possible.
Two Marines gave their lives that day, protecting me.
The two young Leathernecks were killed covering Corporal Woody Williams when he knocked out 7 Japanese pillboxes, killing at least 27 enemy soldiers. There's not much left of those grass-covered, crumbling concrete pillboxes today, but 77 years ago, machine guns inside them were spitting death in every direction.
Did you ever think you'd be the longest surviving recipient of the Medal of Honor and also the oldest recipient?
Nope, I really never gave that whole lot of thought, but I'm very glad that I've been able to reach that point.
Woody Williams earned the Medal of Honor on February 23, 1945. Ironically, the day other Marines raised the flag atop Mount Suribachi, a dormant volcano.
And the flag had just reached its pinnacle, and the wind caught it, and it was standing straight out.
Did that give you a real shot in the arm? I say that figuratively, a boost in your morale?
It did everybody.
Williams didn't know the names of the two fallen heroes who had his back until a friend researching witness documents a few years ago discovered their names. In 2017, Woody was invited to dedicate a plaque to the memory of Corporal Warren Bornholz and Private First Class Charles Fisher at the Marine Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. Bornholz and Fisher gave their lives so Woody could clear a path through the pillboxes in order for tanks and infantry to cut the island in half and capture the main airfield. Motoyama 1, as the airfield was called, was desperately needed. Battle-damaged B-29s returning from dropping incendiary bombs over Tokyo and other Japanese cities had to have a safe place to land. Motoyama 1 was the only airfield within 1,000 miles of their home bases. Without an airfield on Iwo Jima, crippled B-29 superfortresses were forced to ditch in the Pacific Ocean where rescue was a crapshoot. There weren't enough air and sea rescue assets available. After-action reports indicate almost 3,000 American airmen perished in the Pacific. 24,000 of them were saved, though, when B-29s like dynamite made emergency landings on Motoyama 1, even while fighting raged just off the runway. When Woody Williams left Guam after U.S. forces retook the island from Japan in the fall of 1944, officers in the 3rd Marine Division didn't tell enlisted men like him where they were going.
They just said we're shipping out. Didn't tell us anything, where we're going, what we're going to do. We got on the ship, and after we got to sea, then they began telling us we're going to this place called Iwo Jima.
Had you ever heard of that place?
No, nobody had. And they brought out a board, like a piece of plywood, and they showed a diagram of what it looked like.
Woody says briefing officers didn't say why the 5-mile-wide, 8-mile-long barren island with no fresh water had to be taken.
And the island being so small, most of us couldn't understand, why would you take a little place like that when we were just off of Guam, that, you know, it's 19 miles from one coastline to the other. And why would we be taking that little place? It didn't make any sense to any of us.
One of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history began with broadsides from rocket boats and battleships. Japanese gunners held their fire until the first waves of the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions got ashore and bunched up on the landing beaches before they opened up with their artillery and mortars. Most of the first day's casualties, some 2,400 Marines wounded or killed, came from Japanese artillery hidden in caves on Mount Suribachi, overlooking the landing sites. With no place to hide from Japanese gunners, Woody Williams says Marines felt like ducks in a shooting gallery back home at a county fair.
They had them pinned to the beach, both divisions, and they couldn't advance.
The bloodbath continued for 2 days until Woody and members of the 3rd Marine Division that had been held in reserve were committed to battle. Woody was trained how to use a flamethrower, how to take them apart and put them back together again.
But nothing about how do you use this thing in combat.
After circling ashore for 2 days, Woody and his special unit headed to Iwo Jima in flat-bottomed Higgins boats, a bumpy ride at best.
When we hit the beach, I had 6 guys in my unit.
All were either killed or wounded during the Battle of Iwo Jima. The first pillbox was the toughest of 7 Woody burned out on February 23rd.
And they had all the advantage. They're in the pillbox and we're in the open.
And they had interlocking fields of fire.
Yeah. So we jump up to run to advance and we get hit.
Woody and a pole charge man, a member of his special unit with explosives taped to the end of a piece of wood, used a trench to slip into a shell crater that was near the first pillbox.
And when he came out of the hole, shell crater, he kind of stood up, leaned over, and a bullet hit him right there. Penetrated his helmet, didn't penetrate the liner, but it went clear around to the back, and it threw him back in that hole. And I got close to this pillbox, but they had an ambu in the pillbox.
Like machine gun.
Yeah, like a .30 caliber. And they're shooting at me with that thing. So I crawled off to the right to get out of the line of fire. And when I did, I saw a little bit of smoke coming out of the top of this pillbox.
Vent pipe.
Vent pipe. They lived in there. They cooked in there. So I just crawled up on top. And I figured if the smoke coming out, there's a hole up there someplace, you know. So I went up and here's this pipe, and my flamethrower nozzle fit exactly. It was the size of my flamethrower nozzle. So I just stuck the flamethrower nozzle down that whole pipe and pulled the trigger. Took care of them.
A flamethrower was the most feared weapon on the battlefield during World War II in the Pacific, but it only contained a few squirts of highly flammable gasoline before it had to be refueled. Woody hoped he had enough fuel left when 4 Japanese soldiers came charging out of a pillbox with fixed bayonets.
My only weapon was the flamethrower, and I just turned and hit them with the flame, and they collapsed. That was it.
So you turned them into human torches.
Yes. And
Did that ever affect you? I mean, did it come back to haunt you later, but maybe not at the moment?
well, the odor of burned flesh, there is no other odor in the world like burned flesh. That's for years and years haunted me very badly.
Woody Williams was wounded 2 weeks later by a mortar fragment that hit him in the leg while trying to seek cover in a shallow hole, but Woody refused to go to an aid station for treatment of his wound. Woody did allow a Navy corpsman to pull the piece of jagged metal out of his leg and bandage his wound.
The corpsman came and cut my dungarees and took his forceps and reached in there and pulled the metal out. Said, "You want this?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, it's still warm.
8 months after being wounded on Iwo Jima, Corporal Woody Williams was welcomed to the White House by President Harry Truman, where Woody was presented the Medal of Honor 3 days after his 22nd birthday.
I'd never heard of the Medal of Honor. I didn't know what it was.
Williams didn't get to see the citation before it was read in the Rose Garden at the medal ceremony, but he says one word in a sentence in that citation still rubs him the wrong way.
And there's one word in there that if they'd let me see it, I would have said that word has got to be removed.
What one was it?
He went forward alone. I didn't.
2 of 4 Marine riflemen assigned to cover Woody Williams were killed. Woody couldn't help but think of them as he was given a hero's welcome in Washington.
Well, I remember being absolutely scared out of my wits because I never dreamed that I would ever even see a president, let alone be able to walk up to the president and stand nose to nose with him. He did say to me, as he was, after he put the medal around my neck, that he would rather have the medal than to be president.
Was your family able to share that moment with you that day?
My mother and my future wife was.
Your mother must have been so proud of you because you were the last of 11 children.
Yeah. I'm not sure that she realized the significance of it. I didn't.
You've had 77 years now to think about this medal that you wear around your neck. What does it mean to you today?
Well, I wear it in honor of others, not myself. Other Marines sacrificed their lives to make it possible for me to even have the Medal of Honor.
When 99-year-old Army Sergeant First Class Charles Coolidge died last April in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Woody Williams, who will turn 99 in October, became the oldest surviving recipient of the Medal of Honor. Unlike Coolidge, who got out of the Army after the war, Woody Williams stayed in the reserves and retired as a CW-4, a Chief Warrant Officer. But Woody's fighting days were far from over. For years after the war, he suffered from psychoneurosis, which today is called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
For years at night, I'd have these flashbacks and I'd try to put out a fire and crazy stuff. It wasn't until really 1962 that I finally felt like God had forgiven me. I couldn't forgive myself. That was my problem.
A simple act of contrition at a church in Quietdale, where Woody and his wife lived, changed his whole life.
I married an angel, and she'd take the girls to church, but I wouldn't go. And finally, on Easter, 1962, I said, okay, I'll go.
But Woody had a plan.
And if that preacher gets to screaming at me, I'm leaving.
Woody got up that Sunday morning, but didn't leave.
God's work. I got up and walked up to the prayer rail, right in the middle of his sermon. That had never been done, as far as I know, in a Methodist church. God forgave me. I became a Christian, and I became very active in my church. I taught Sunday school for 44 years.
After a second career with the Veterans Administration, which lasted 33 years, Woody Williams established a nonprofit foundation that provides scholarships for children of Gold Star families who have lost a loved one in combat. The foundation also builds monuments to those families. The monuments are Woody's way of saying thank you to Gold Star families who have laid a loved one on the altar of freedom.